14:58 AM and DAB, smart speaker, mobile app and LikerRadio.com.
This is Leica Radio.
News Centre at 9. Boris Johnson says he's confident of winning the next general election and believes he could stay on as Prime Minister into the 2030s. That's despite losing 2 by-elections this week and having recently survived a confidence vote in his leadership. Mr Johnson says he's actively thinking about a third term. Northern Ireland Secretary Brandon Lewis says his boss is still the right person for the job.
I'm very clear. I want our country to have a Conservative-led government for a very, very long time. I want a Prime Minister who's looking at the long term and doing so with enthusiasm and focus. That's what we've got in Boris Johnson, and that's why I support him and will continue to.
Kiev's mayor says an apartment building in the centre of the Ukrainian capital's been hit by Russian artillery. Vitaly Klitschko reports people are trapped under the rubble, while police say at least 5 people were wounded. Meanwhile, the UK, along with the US, Canada and Japan, is to ban the import of Russian gold, the country's biggest non-energy export. The new sanction over the invasion of Ukraine was announced ahead of a meeting of G7 leaders in Germany. Clarence House insists the correct processes were followed after it emerged Prince Charles received a suitcase full of cash from a Qatari sheikh. The money, thought to be worth nearly £1 million, was given straight to one of the prince's charities. Reports also suggest a similar sum was handed over in Fortnum and Mason carrier bags. Here's our correspondent Charlotte Lomas.
There's no suggestion that these payments were illegal, but of course, no doubt there will be serious questions raised over the personal judgment of Prince Charles, the heir to the throne, and whether this affects his impartiality.
The 2 biggest stars in British tennis say they're ready for action at Wimbledon. Andy Murray and Emma Raducanu are both overcoming injuries ahead of their opening matches tomorrow. And today marks 25 years since the first Harry Potter book was released. It's gone on to sell 500 million copies since 1997. That's the latest. I'm Matt Steele.
With Now, you can stream big blockbusters. How big? Mind-bending big, like The Matrix Resurrections.
What is happening to me? Show us what is real.
Monster big, like Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Do you guys hear that?
Something's coming. Start your 7-day free trial and stream big on Now.
Get ready now.
New UK customers only, 18 plus. Memberships auto renew at $9.99 a month unless cancelled. Minimum speed 2.5 megabits per second. Terms apply.
Leica Radio 1458 and Leica Gold 1035, a part of the Leica Group. Leica Radio Weather is brought to you by TravelUp.com. Our lowest prices are guaranteed only when you book directly through TravelUp.com or call 0207 580 5000.
The weather today, Sunday 26th of June 2022. Sunny intervals and fresh breeze. In London and surrounding areas, top temperature 20 centigrade. Sunset is at 9:22 p.m.
Weather was brought to you by TravelUp.com. Our lowest prices are guaranteed only when you book directly through TravelUp.com.
Leica Radio.
Talking Points with Keith Vaz, celebrating diversity. Leica, London.
Leica Radio.
Good morning and welcome to the 116th edition of Talking Points on Leica Radio with me, Keith Vaz. Thank you for joining us today on Sunday, the 26th of June, 2022, the last Sunday of the month. I can't believe half the year has gone. I hope you're having a great weekend. Thank you, Gilly, for another amazing show. Happy birthday this week to Karen Chauhan, Mohammed, Alec McConnell, and today to Rashmi Joshi and Neil Bethisa. In the news this week, Ukraine and Moldova have been granted EU candidate status, announced by the President of the European Council, Charles Michel. Ukraine applied days after the Russian invasion in February, and the process has moved at a record speed. It's going to be a summer of discontent, I'm afraid. Hundreds of British Airways workers at Heathrow Airport have voted to go on strike over pay. A total of 700 workers are set to strike during the summer holidays, when demand for travellers is expected to be near pre-pandemic levels. Let's hope they all get round a table. Prime Minister Boris Johnson has arrived in Rwanda for the Commonwealth Summit called Chogam. Prince Charles is also there representing the Queen. I had a great time down the road from Leica Radio headquarters on Thursday when I went to see the amazing Diana Ross. What a superstar. Absolute legend. I'm having a love hangover. On the programme today, we'll be talking to my special guest starting in Haywards Heath in Sussex, where I will be having a chat with a UK tax barrister and Indian tax advocate of over 25 years of experience, Nikhil Mehta. Stay tuned because he's got some very interesting tax tips to tell us. We're then going to go from Sussex to Hayes in West London to talk to the Senior Training Officer at the London Borough of Hounslow, Pamela Rodriguez, about her very interesting journey from Mumbai to Hounslow. Finally, we're going to the East End of London for a chat with Councillor Amina Ali, the Deputy Leader of the Labour Group in Tower Hamlets, the first Somali woman ever to achieve that position. She was involved in something of a political earthquake a few weeks ago. But before all that, let's hear some music.
पीती रहती सावरिया बिन सजना क्यों जीती रहती पन घट पे घट करके पीती रहती सावरिया बिन सजना क्यों जीती रहती पटती पटनते क्यों तो इतना बनते घना एटीट्यूड घमंडी पर बनेगी तू मेरी बंदी पीती रहती सावरिया बिन सजना क्यों जीती रहती
Talking Points with Keith Vaz, celebrating diversity. Leica, London.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Talking Points on Leica Radio. I hope you enjoyed the music. My first two guests today have one thing in common. They were both born in Mumbai. Nikhil Mehta is a poacher turned gamekeeper on 2 counts. His parents started off their lives as doctors, his father becoming a tax lawyer. Nikhil is now regarded as one of the foremost tax specialists in the United Kingdom. Having studied in Mumbai, worked with his father, became a tax expert in Indian law. He then was called to the bar at Lincoln's Inn in London, completing his Chancery pupillage. He was enrolled as an Indian advocate and practiced law in India before returning to the UK. He then became a solicitor working for the Inland Revenue in Somerset House before part of it became an ice rink. He worked on collection and enforcement, which, as he would readily admit, tended to be a conversation stopper in most social gatherings. Following that, he became a partner in one of the biggest law firms in the world, Linklaters, and was then admitted as a barrister. He is now a tax lawyer of some 25 years standing. So if you have any questions and any thoughts about tax, then please stay tuned. He's married with 2 sons, 2 daughters-in-law, and 2 wonderful grandchildren. He joins me this morning from Haywards Heath in Sussex. Good morning, Nikhil Mehta.
Good morning to you, Keith, and to all your listeners.
Thank you. Now, Nikhil, you decided to turn against the normal cycle of life in not becoming a doctor. Your parents, of course, being doctors. Was there pressure from your parents not to become a doctor, or did you just make your mind up on your own when you became a tax lawyer?
The honest truth, Keith, is that there was no pressure, partly because law and medicine both run in my family. Medicine just happened to skip a generation in me, and my older son has picked up that baton as he is now a plastic surgeon. In fact, what happened was that my parents divorced and my mother left family behind and took the brave step of moving to the UK on her own, with me tagging along at the age of 8. Our first home was a one-room bedstead in Earl's Court behind the exhibition hall. So you will see that family pressures didn't really come into any of this. There were other challenges, but family pressures weren't one of them. Also, I read Latin and Greek at school, and in those days you couldn't do that, as well as learn science. So that was as far as my medical career was concerned. It just disappeared before it started. My mother, incidentally, was this country's first Asian female brain surgeon. I only discovered that when someone told me at her funeral. She had actually never told me that when she was alive.
Incredible. It's amazing what our parents have achieved, because when they are alive, you don't see them as iconic figures. You see them as parents, don't you? You don't really talk too much about what they've done. After a successful career in India, you decided to come back to England and you joined the Inland Revenue. Presumably, some of your friends decided to keep you at arm's length when they heard that you were in charge of collection and enforcement. Just looking at the Inland Revenue now, and if one has ever tried to ring the helpline of the Inland Revenue and get through, it's not the kind of efficient behemoth that it used to be in the past. Or do you think it's okay dealing with them?
Well, let me deal with the first thing you said about collection and enforcement, which you're absolutely right. Talking about collection and enforcement does tend to keep people at bay, even though they may be dying to get you to break the Official Secrets Act and tell tales out of school. At least you don't get the usual stuff when you tell someone you're a lawyer and they then ask you about any personal legal problem without thinking whether it might be in your area of specialism or not. Once you say you're a lawyer, you're expected to know everything. Now, the point about revenue efficiency is a difficult question, because having worked there, I've seen a large organization from the inside, and seeing from the outside is actually quite different. I mean, what I can say is that I was there at a point in time when the Inland Revenue and Customs and Excise were quite different departments with different approaches to the way in which they administer their taxes. I don't think the merger has been unqualified success. And if you believe that small is beautiful, or at least that smaller is more beautiful, then yes, I would have to say that the efficiency was better then. This is not just because of the merger, I hasten to add, but there are other forces at work, such as fewer resources now and even more complex problems. And as you have so rightly pointed out, Keith, trying to get hold of the revenue at any given point in time is actually also quite difficult. And to be honest, I don't have a great deal of sympathy with a regime that insists on complicating its own legislation year by year. And as you know, taxing an annual tax, that's exactly what happened.
Now, final question in this part. You went on from the Inland Revenue, you went on to the other side of the table. You went to one of the biggest law firms in the world, Linklaters. Presumably most of your cases were against the Inland Revenue. Did you have a bit of fun with the Inland Revenue? Because, of course, you were an inside man who went outside. Did they teach you lots of secrets that you could use for your clients when you went on to the other side?
Well, you've reminded me that when I first started Linklaters, there was a very senior colleague in the tax department who insisted on introducing me to everyone whenever we went to a client meeting as somebody who'd just come out of the revenue. And this was a bit like the person who thinks the lawyer knows everything. Despite the fact that I did collection and enforcement, I was supposed to know about all sorts of city-based things, which of course I didn't. But you do have a bit of fun. But of course you have to remember, in my case, I was actually a poacher first in India, then a gamekeeper of the revenue, and then I sort of became a poacher back again at Linklaters. The only difference being that I was now fighting a different tax administration as opposed to the Indian one.
We're going to take a short break. I'm talking to the preeminent tax lawyer Nikhil Mehta about his life and indeed about tax. I'm going to ask him for some tips in the second part, how you can save tax. Please join me after the...
Leica Radio.
This summer, experience the captivating world of the multi-Olivier award-winning stage phenomenon, Life of Pi. Described by Time Out as one of the most visually stunning shows I have ever seen. Life of Pi is a must-see for all the family. The puppetry is out of this world. Yes. Playing at the Wyndham's Theatre in London's West End. Book now for the journey of a lifetime. Life of Pi on stage.com.
Flightpath Travel. We are travel experts for flights, hotels, tours and offering the cheapest COVID testing at only £6.99. Call now on 0203 463 7788.
Hello, Britain. Albert Einstein here. Smart meters are helping people all over the country manage their household budgets. They show how much energy you're using and what it's costing you daily, weekly and monthly. So, for example, my neighbor Josh might learn he takes too long in the shower, which could even help him reduce how much energy he's using.
For extra help managing your household budgets, search Get a Smart Meter today. Consumer action required. Energy systems and eligibility may vary.
The future is unpredictable at times. But the Open University are the experts in distance learning, allowing you to fit study around your life. What's more, you'll have support from dedicated tutors every step of the way. Now, suddenly your possibilities are open. Search the Open University to find out more. The Open University. The future is open.
Thank you, Hounslow, for making Scoop Herb Natural Ice Cream a super success. Scoop Herb, 159 Hanworth Road, Hounslow. Opening offer, buy 2 scoops for the price of 1 until the 30th of June. So hurry and have 2 ice creams instead of 1.
State Bank of India UK announces its Safe Deposit Locker Open Day at its East Ham branch. Walk into SBI UK East Ham branch, 149 to 153 High Street North, East Ham, London E6 18Z from 9:30am to 3pm on Thursday the 30th of June, and you'll be able to open a safe deposit locker without an appointment. We offer great rates for our locker services. We look forward to seeing you and discussing your needs and how SBI UK can assist you. SBI Safe Deposit Locker Open Day at the East Ham branch on Thursday the 30th of June.
The one thing COVID did give us, digital transformation. If you're serious about digital growth and would like a tactical approach to your digital marketing, then remember the name Harty Hanks. With over 20 years experience and a proven track record, we have the talent and know-how to deliver online success. Harty Hanks, experts in consultancy, branding, design, e-commerce, search and social. Call Harty Hanks today on 020 8827 1600 or visit hhdigital.uk. Harty Hanks, your partners for digital success.
Download the new Leica Radio app now. Listen to Leica Radio and Leica Gold live or listen back. Search for Leica Radio on Android and iOS devices. The personalities that matter. With Keith Vaz on Talking Points.
Leica Radio.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Talking Points on Leica Radio. I'm talking to Nikhil Mehta, a senior and preeminent city tax lawyer with over 25 years of tax experience. Nikhil Mehta, you started to undertake advocacy, and nowadays you see lots of solicitors becoming advocates. Is this the way the profession is going in the future? Do all solicitors have to be advocates?
No, I don't think so at all, Keith. It's a fact of life that we all like the devil we know. And the same applies to solicitors. The fact of the matter is that solicitors who are successful enjoy what they are doing, and not all solicitors want to appear in court. Advocacy requires a very different skill set, and so long as we have a profession split between solicitors and barristers, I think we're unlikely to see a marked rise in solicitor advocacy. I told you that I myself became a solicitor advocate, but what I quickly found was that I was a second-class citizen to barristers. I mean, why would somebody instruct a solicitor advocate when they have barristers available? So I think the fact of the matter is that while some solicitor advocates will make some sort of career using advocacy, so long as we have a twin profession in this country, things will not change and the barristers will continue to dominate, particularly in the High Court.
Now, your practice includes UK and Indian tax laws. Tell us briefly the biggest difference. It sounds like an exam question. Tell us briefly the exact difference between the laws of this country as far as tax is concerned and the law of tax in India.
It's an interesting question, and I was about to say how much time have you got, but I know you haven't got a lot of time, so I'll be as quick as I can. The big difference used to be the attitude of the tax authorities, but I think what everyone will, with some justification, thinks of the Indian tax authorities as being unduly aggressive. I think this is partly based upon what they've been taught as they've grown up, which is a mentality based on tackling tax evasion and black money, and then bringing that to more civil tax avoidance type transactions. But the revenue here, I think, have also become quite aggressive over the years. So I think those two particular lines are converging. Sangam, if you like, as you will see in terms of when we come to my song choice later on. The main difference, I think now, is that I'm very impressed with the Supreme Court in particular in India, and I think of the Supreme Court as the conscience of the tax administration in India. If you like, the Jiminy Cricket to the tax administration's Pinocchio. We don't have a Supreme Court in this country that has quite the same approach when it comes to dealing with HMRC. So I think that is still quite a big difference.
Now, we have our Leica listeners gathered round the radio. They are all waiting for a tax tip that's going to save them tax. Not anything illegal, of course. We want a tip from you. Now, last year, of course, we heard the tip was not necessarily a tip, that if you buy an electric car that you use exclusively for your business and you're self-employed, that's deductible for tax purposes, I understand. So give us a tax tip now for the listeners of Leica Radio. We'll call it the Nikhil Mehta tip of 2022. Save us some tax.
Let me say this. I hope it's topical because it's kind of linked to the pandemic, and particularly for the self-employed. As our lifestyles have changed and more of us are having to work from home, it's important to make sure that you claim fully and properly for allowable home expenditure. Now, this is obviously going to increase the more we work from home, not just because of the time spent, but also now the added challenge we all have of the scary price rises for energy and so on. The employed working from home can't take advantage of the same benefits, but someone who is self-employed, like myself, I know how difficult it is to keep track of what the expenditure is, and that we don't always claim for everything. And you may be surprised to hear a tax lawyer saying that, but just like a doctor, we devote less attention to our own affairs than we do to that of others. There's a very modest optional fixed monthly deductible allowance for those of us who don't want the bother of keeping expenses. But to give you an idea, that is a maximum of £26 per month if you work at home for more than 100 hours per month. So that, to me, is laughable, and what you really want to do is, in this day and age, is to have a proper record of what you do and use that to claim properly, particularly what I think is going to be increased expenditure as we go forward. And there is one trap which I very quickly want to point out, which is that if you do happen to have a place in your home which you use exclusively as an office, just be careful, because that can affect your tax exemption when you sell your house as your principal private residence, because what then happens is that bit of the house is knocked off the exemption and you're actually taxed on that. So the trick is to make sure that whatever you're doing in terms of working at home, you haven't got a space there which you're using exclusively. But if you do that properly, I think this is quite an important thing to keep in mind as we go forward.
Anyway, we've got your number now, so we'll give you a ring. As Mark Twain said, only two things guaranteed in life, death and taxes. So you will never be unemployed, Nikhil Mehta. Nikhil Mehta, it's been a pleasure talking to you. We always ask our special guests to choose a song that means something to them and to dedicate it to someone special. Which song would you like to choose, and to whom would you like to dedicate it?
So I'm going back in history. The song I would like, Keith, is Ye Mera Prema Patra Padkar from Sangam. Now, I saw this film in 1964 at a cinema in my mother's birthplace, Nagpur. I'd forgotten most of my Hindi, so I probably didn't understand a word of the film, but this song reduced me to tears when I saw it. It still does so allow me to dedicate it as a love song to the beautiful city of Nagpur.
Nikhil Mehta, thank you so much for joining us today on Leica Radio.
Thanks very much for having me on your program, Keith, and I'd like to send all my best wishes to all your listeners on Leica Radio.
Let's hear Nikhil Mehta's Love.
मेहरबान लिखूं हसीना लिखूं या दिलरुबा लिखूं हैरान हूँ कि आपको इस खत में क्या लिखूं
छोड़ो मेरी साड़ी,
छोड़ो मेरा खत।
मैं कहती हूँ छोड़ो मेरी साड़ी, छोड़ो मेरी साड़ी।
पहले मेरा खत वापस करो।
क्यों?
शर्म नहीं आती दूसरों के प्रेम पत्र पढ़ती हो?
शर्म नहीं आती दूसरों को प्रेम पत्र लिखते हो?
ये मेरा प्रेम पत्र पढ़कर कि तुम नाराज ना होना, कि तुम मेरी जिंदगी हो, कि तुम मेरी बंदगी हो। ये मेरा प्रेम पत्र पढ़कर कि तुम नाराज ना होना, कि तुम मेरी जिंदगी कि तुम मेरी बंदगी हो। तुझे मैं चांद कहता था मगर उसमें भी दाग है। तुझे मैं चांद कहता था मगर उसमें भी दाग है। तुझे सूरज मैं कहता था मगर उसमें भी आग है। तुझे इतना ही कहता हूँ कि मुझको तुमसे प्यार है, तुमसे प्यार है, तुमसे प्यार है। ये मेरा प्रेम पत्र पढ़कर कि तुम नाराज ना होना, कि तुम मेरी जिंदगी हो, कि तुम मेरी बंदगी हो। तुझे गंगा मैं समझूंगा, तुझे जमुना मैं समझूंगा। तुझे गंगा मैं समझूंगा, तुझे जमुना मैं समझूंगा। तू दिल के पास है इतनी, तुझे अपना मैं समझूंगा। अगर मर जाऊं रूह भटकेगी तेरे इंतजार में, इंतजार में, इंतजार में। ये मेरा प्रेम पत्र पढ़कर कि तुम नाराज ना होना, कि तुम मेरी जिंदगी हो, कि तुम मेरी बंदगी हो। ये मेरा प्रेम पत्र पढ़कर कि तुम नाराज ना होना, कि तुम मेरी जिंदगी हो, कि तुम मेरी बंदगी हो।
Flight updates are brought to you by TravelUp.com. Flights, hotels and holidays.
Let's go for a flight update. All flights are as scheduled, but please check with your flight operators before heading to the airport.
Flight updates were brought to you by TravelUp.com. Lowest prices are guaranteed only when you book directly through TravelUp.com. Call 0207 580 5000.
Leica Radio.
Traffic and travel.
I'm Michael Page. Good news to start. On the N25 anti-clockwise, the right-hand Dartford tunnel has reopened following an earlier accident and the delays have eased. But on the M25 anti-clockwise between junction 14 for Heathrow and 13 for Staines, there's a broken down horse box blocking the inside lane. At the moment, it isn't causing any delays. The M4 Heathrow spur, that's still looking very busy heading into the airport this morning. And staying in West London, the South Circular remains closed between Kew Bridge and the Chiswick roundabout at the M4 for works this weekend. It's not causing any delays yet, but is likely to as the morning progresses. On the tubes, the District Line has severe delays eastbound between Earls Court and Barking because of an earlier broken down train. And that's the latest traffic and travel.
Are you sure you don't want to retire next year instead?
Suzanne's top accountant is retiring just as new business is rolling in and problems are starting to add up.
Well, you'll certainly be missed.
Indeed can help her find great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. With Indeed Instant Match, we immediately show you candidates whose CVs on Indeed meet your sponsored job description. To start hiring, visit Indeed.com/try today.
This is Leica Radio.
Hello, I'm Albert Einstein. If you already have a smart meter, this is excellent. Because by my calculations, if everybody in Britain gets one, we could save the equivalent CO2 as roughly 70 million trees. That must be good for the planet, huh? I mean, you don't have to be, me to work that out.
Search Get a Smart Meter today. CO2 savings between 2013 and 2034 based on the government forecast for the smart meter rollout. Consumer action required. Eligibility may vary.
इस बार जश्न-ए-आज़ादी वेम्बली अरीना में Broadway City Gwadar presents 75th Pakistan Jashn-e-Azadi with media partners ARY Digital. On Sunday 14th August at OVO Arena, Wembley, London. Powered by Janan J. Branding partner Tariq Halal Meet with special performances by Ustad Shafqat Amanat Ali Khan, Arif Lohar, Bilal Saeed, Aima Beg, Sanam Marvi, Sai Zahoor, Hiramani, Humayma Malik. Book your seats from £15 only at ovoarena.co.uk. Radio partners Leica Radio and Leica Gold.
Thank you, Hounslow, for making Scoop Herb Natural Ice Cream a super success. Scoop Herb, 159 Hanworth Road, Hounslow. Opening offer, buy 2 scoops for the price of 1 until the 30th of June. So hurry and have 2 ice creams instead of 1.
Bring on the biggest blockbuster this summer. Viacom 18 Studio and Dharma Productions present Jug Jug Jio, a family reunion of Varun Dhawan, Kiera Advani, Anil Kapoor and Neetu Kapoor with full of surprises.
प्रिया का सबसे बड़ा फेस्टिवल पता है कौन सा है? कौन सा होता है? घरवाली। क्यों? क्योंकि उसे बार-बार मनाना पड़ता है। कल्ले रहना मनु अच्छा लगदा। घर में ना कभी तलाक हुआ है और ना कभी तलाक होगा।
Jug Jug Jio, now in cinemas in the UK. State Bank of India UK announces its Safe Deposit Locker Open Day at its East Ham branch. Walk into SBI UK East Ham branch, 149 to 153 High Street North, East Ham, London E6 18Z from 9:30am to 3pm on Thursday the 30th of June, and you'll be able to open a safe deposit locker without an appointment. We offer great rates for our locker services. We look forward to seeing you and discussing your needs and how SBI UK can assist you. SBI Safe Deposit Locker Open Day at the East Ham branch on Thursday the 30th of June.
Talking Points with Keith Vaz, celebrating diversity. Leica, London.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Talking Points on Leica Radio. I hope you've all written down your top tips from our tax expert, Nikhil Mehta. My next guest is Pamela Rodriguez, who was born in Mumbai, studied at the prestigious St. Xavier's College in that city, where she majored in English and political science. She worked in industry as the Employment and Engagement Officer for Mahindra and Mahindra, one of the biggest corporations in India. She then came to England and had to start all over again. She's currently a senior training officer for the London Borough of Hounslow. She's married to Kevin and she has 3 children, Kiara, Kian and Zain. Let's talk to her about her journey. She joins me this morning from Hayes in West London. Good morning, Pamela Rodriguez.
Hi, Keith. Good morning, and thank you so much for having me on the show today.
When you were at your famous school of St. Xavier's, which of course is very well known in Mumbai and throughout the world, did you appreciate how special that education was compared, for example, to other people who were in the education system in India?
Well, yes, I did appreciate it because, as you said, Xavier's is a very prestigious institution, and the thing that they say about Xavier's is it's not just a college, it's a way of life. So the quality of education that was imparted there was on par excellence and on very high standards. So I was very, very fortunate enough to be able to be a part of Xavier's. And when I saw my other friends going through different other colleges around the city, I realized what I had in Xavier's was very special. And the faculty there would also, ignite you. They would treat you as adults. They would challenge you to ask questions. So yes, I did appreciate it, and I think it has in some way helped in nurturing the kind of person that I am today. So yes, I did appreciate it a lot then.
You became involved in corporate India when you worked there and made your way up the ladder. You started in call centres and you ended up working for quite a large company. We see very few women in high places. At least we did then in India. Do you think it's changed? And do you think there are more women involved in corporate activities in India?
I would say that it is changing. It has not yet changed. Now remember, everybody waits and expects a woman to buckle under pressure and to give up. Now for me, that very expectation was something that challenged me. So even if I was nervous and calm, I walked with a lot of confidence. So that itself gave the message across that, I meant business. I think, yes, things are changing quite slowly, but there is sometimes an unbiased or unconscious bias towards women that needs to change, and that is something that I'd like to work towards.
Now your time as an employment and engagement officer with Mahindra and Mahindra, where you were handling their pan-India uniform distribution for two-wheelers, what was it like being part of this massive corporation? Because some of these Indian companies are behemoths, aren't they?
Yes, but you know what? The time that I had at Mahindra was one of the best times that I had in my entire career. And a lot of credit also goes to the way that my parents have brought me up. So they did not stop me from doing anything that just because I was a girl. And because of that, in a very male-dominated sector like two-wheeler business, I did not find myself like a fish out of water. I'm like, why can I not do this? The fact that I also spoke a lot of languages and Indian languages, it instantly cut down my barriers there. So I was able to talk to people all across India and get my work done. So I would say that it was very nice working with Mahindras, and a lot of it also had to do with, the fact that I spoke so many languages.
This is Keith Az on Talking Points on Leica Radio. I'm talking to Pamela Rodriguez, someone who started her corporate career in India but is now working in local government in the United Kingdom. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk to her further about her journey. Join us after the break.
तेरा मेरा दोनों का दिल बेसबर बेसबर शामों सहर दोनों का दिल बेखबर लो कश्तियाँ हमारी यूं टकरा गई लहर लहर दोनों का दिल बेसफर हाँ डूबे एक तुझे में यहाँ हाँ डूबे उफ ये गहराइयाँ हाँ डूबे एक तुझे में यहाँ है सांसों में समंदर है दिल में धुआं दिल बह जाए यहाँ हो जाएगा क्या जो खो गए यहाँ जो खो जाए यहाँ हाँ डूबे तुझे में यहाँ हाँ डूबे फिर गहराइयाँ हाँ डूबे तुझे में यहाँ है सांसों में समंदर है दिल में धुआं
Keith Vaz on Talking Points. Leica.
This is Keith Vaz on Talking Points on Leica Radio. I'm talking to Pamela Rodriguez about her journey from St Xavier's College in Mumbai to the London borough of Hounslow, where she now works. Pamela, you moved here in 2014. Why did you come to Britain? And in deciding to come here, what do you think the biggest differences have been between the corporate world in Mumbai and that of the United Kingdom?
Well, the move to Britain was purely for family reasons. My husband was a sailor and would come to India only for 2 or 3 months a year on his vacation. So he wanted to, and he's mostly worked in this side of the world, so he wanted to settle this side. Britain being a diverse country and always it takes everyone in its fold, so everyone finds a home here. So we decided to come to Britain so that we could live together and my daughter would have a normal family life. So yes, moving to Britain was purely a family move, but I don't see much difference between, the corporate world in Mumbai or in Britain, because again, being a colored woman, an immigrant in Britain came with its set of challenges. So, and then, since I had already mastered the art of facing those challenges, I am where I am today now.
You are currently working in the London Borough of Hounslow as a Senior Systems and Training Support Officer. It's an interesting job, isn't it? Training, especially if you train new people for jobs, is quite challenging. A lot of people actually buckle under when they start their training. How do you think this is done? I mean, training people in Britain is different from other countries, of course, but how do you assess the performance of a trainee? How do you know this trainee is going to make it to the long run? What's your tips for all of us who want to be trainees in the future?
Well, see, it's very simple. Trainees also, at the end of the day, are people. And if I connect to them as a person, it then cuts the barriers of everything else, the language, the race and community and everything else. So many a times when I train people, I am judged as a woman, as a trainer for my accent. But it is very important for me to be very unbiased and not judgmental at all. I mainly train social workers who work with children and adults. Now, what I've noticed among them is that the student social workers are very, very advanced technically. They know the systems at the tip of their fingers, but they are a little challenged when it comes to the laws and the process. Whereas the senior social workers, they are challenged technically, but they know the work at the back of their hands. So it is just to be able to identify those traits between a trainee and then to break it down for them in simpler languages. So if I had a senior social worker who's a little challenged with the system and feels nervous and feels useless because of it, I just need to give her confidence or, tell them that, no, what you're doing is great. What this simply means in layman's term is this is what you need to do. Whereas the same for young social worker who's just going to start her career or his career, just to give them the kind of confidence that, look, you know the system. This is where you need to identify the gap in your process and then you're good to go. So I think to be able to connect and to be able to make them feel comfortable is the key for me and helps me train them well and take care of the classroom, and then, it's just a smooth ride from there.
Final question. You studied political science at Carmel College in Goa, another very famous college. Do you foresee a political career beckoning? If so, what kinds of things would you like to change in society? I mean, you can start with our country now. What would you like to change? Why would you go into politics and what would you like to change?
Well, whichever country in the world, what I have actually seen is there is what I said earlier, an unconscious bias against women. And that is what I'd like to change. Remember, what I've noticed is that an unconscious bias automatically robs a woman of her confidence, and that affects her competency in the job that she's doing. Now, if given a chance, I am working towards, the next council elections. I know they are 4 years away, but I'd like to structure myself in that direction. And I would like to create a sisterhood where women would feel confident enough to, come to join. They would feel free to express themselves and they're not judged. And to give, women from all backgrounds a platform to express themselves and to achieve their goals. It does not have to be big, record-breaking goals, just small things that give them the confidence to run their day-to-day life. So yeah, that is something that I'd like to do. And, to be able to integrate work and family is something that I'd like to work towards.
Pamela Rodriguez, it's been fascinating talking to you. Who would have known that a young girl who studied in Mumbai would end up being a senior trainer here in the London Borough of Hounslow, helping so many people in their new jobs. Thank you for joining us and good luck with your future.
Thank you so much once again, Keith, for having me today, and my best wishes to all the listeners of Leica Radio. Thank you once.
London's biggest Asian hits, Leica Radio.
Punjab National Bank International Limited launches mobile app for personal customers. Whether you want to send money to India or view your latest balance, do that on the go. Simply download our app for free from your mobile app store. Terms and conditions apply. For more details, please visit
www.pnbint.com. Deposit protection from FSCS. Authorized by the PRA and regulated by FCA and PRA.
The future is unpredictable at times. At the Open University are the experts in distance learning, allowing you to fit study around your life. What's more, you'll have support from dedicated tutors every step of the way. Now, suddenly your possibilities are open. Search the Open University to find out more. The Open University. The future is open.
Your dream holiday will be departing soon. Please make your way to the gate. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. Welcome on board. Sit back and enjoy your flight to paradise.
We've missed these sounds, so let us book your next dream holiday. Call Citybond Holidays today on 0207 290 0616. We are ATOL protected.
Plus presents Sunidhi Chauhan live in the UK.
Hello UK, this is Sunidhi Chauhan.
Not long to go now. On Sunday the 10th of July at Eventim Apollo, London. For tickets, contact Videorama on 0208 907 0116 or visit Ticketmaster and Eventim Apollo, London. It's a Grace Entertainment production, hosted by Leica Radio's Valissa, exclusive radio partner, Leica Radio. Beyond Bollywood is back. Written, choreographed and directed by Rajiv Goswami and music by legendary musicians Salim Suleiman at the Peacock Theatre, London from the 24th of August to the 3rd of September. Book your tickets now. Call 0207 863 8000 or visit sadlerswells.com.
Daljit Thind and Amy Wirk present a romantic comedy movie, Sher Bagga.
ਬੇਬੇ ਹੱਕ ਕਿਹਦਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਅੰਡੇ ਤੇ
ਹੱਕ ਤਾਂ ਪੁੱਤ ਕੁੱਕੜੀ ਦਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ
ਕੁੱਕੜ ਦਾ ਕੁਝ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ
ਕੁੱਕੜ ਛਾਲਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ
Starring Amy Wirk and Sonam Bajwa.
ਛੋੜਦਾ ਮੈਂ ਦਿਲ ਨੀ ਤੂੰ ਰਾਜੇ ਜੱਟ ਦਾ ਐਡੇ ਤੇਰੇ ਅੱਲੜੇ ਨੀ ਭਾਗ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਐ
Sher Bagga.
ਕੋਈ ਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਟੂਣਾ ਟੱਪਾ ਤਾਂ ਤੂੰ ਲਾਜ਼ਮੀ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ ਐਡਾ ਵੀ ਕੋਈ ਐਮੀ ਵਿਰਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਤੂੰ
24 ਜੂਨ ਤੋਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਜ਼ਦੀਕੀ ਸਿਨੇਮਾ ਘਰਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ For more info visit whitehillstudios.com.
Amazing news for Sufi music lovers. Samara Events UK brings you Ek Sham, Queen of Sufi music legend Abida Parveen ji ke naam, by the sensational voice Tehseen Sakina ji on Saturday 30th July at Harrow Arts Centre, London. For seat bookings, please call 07850 742 143. That is 07850 742 143. Or visit harrowarts.com. Media partners Leica Radio and Leica Gold.
The personalities that matter with Keith Vaz on Talking Points.
Leica Radio.
Welcome back. This is Keith Vaz on Talking Points on Leica Radio. We're nearly finished with the programme this week. Let's talk to my final guest who was involved in something of a political earthquake a few weeks ago. On the 5th of May, the London Borough of Tower Hamlets elected the leader of the Aspire party, Lutfur Rahman, to the mayorship of the borough, defeating the Labour Party in one of its biggest strongholds. Let's talk to one of the survivors of that earthquake, Councillor Amina Ali, the first Somali woman to serve on Tower Hamlets Council and now the first and the only deputy leader of a group in London of Somali origin. She joins me this morning from Tower Hamlets in East London. Good morning, Councillor Amina Ali.
Good morning, Keith.
First of all, congratulations on your election as the deputy leader of the group. Were you surprised at being elected, and are you ready for what's going to be a very challenging role?
Thank you, Keith. I think after the shell shock of the election results, I think it wasn't a surprise. I think everyone had to step up, really. And so for me, put myself forward to be the deputy leader was my role of stepping up to make sure as a Labour Party we kind of regroup again. And yes, you're right, elections are tough businesses, and you can go from being in power one day to being in opposition the next. And of course, Tower Hamlets Labour Party, we were bitterly disappointed with the local elections in May. And as we made our move after leading the council for most of the history since the 1960s, and above all, we do value democracy. So voters' views and we do acknowledge and we accept the local election results. And we now find ourselves in the important role of opposition. That means basically scrutinising and holding the mayor and his party to account to make sure that they deliver what they promised for the people of Tower Hamlets.
Councillor Amina Ali, you've now got a period of cohabitation between the council and the mayor, who is an elected mayor. It's a bit like what's happened in France on a different scale, of course. Are there any grounds of agreement when you have the mayor from one particular party and members of the group, a large chunk of the council from another party? Do you think there's any common ground?
There has to be, I think. Both the Labour Party and I assume Aspire as well also want to work for the betterment of the people of Tower Hamlets, and so there has to be. We need time to reflect as a party on our success that we've had over the years, and we also need to learn the lessons as well. And we take pride in, the kind of record that we did have. We fought for most of the vulnerable people and the unrepresented community in Tower Hamlets. We did tackle poverty here. We tried to tackle inequality across the borough. And the Tower Hamlets Labour flagship policy for universal free school meals, it served about 600 a year, and it was one of its kind at the time. However, you're right. We must reflect on where we must improve, and we need to re-engage with those diverse communities that didn't vote for us in the election, so that next time they will look willingly to Labour again. And we'll be out and about, to make sure that we listen to people in the borough. So the new mayor, he does have a big job ahead of him, and his councillors equally so. They need to represent the communities that did elect them, and they need to deliver for the whole borough. And we will be scrutinising and being in opposition. But we'll also have to be professional, and we'll also have to ensure that we are putting residents first. And that means rising above party politics, and where it's beneficial for residents and businesses, working constructively with the mayor and his party. I think that's key as well.
Finally, what about your personal ambitions? You've been a councillor for 8 years. You've now signed up to another 4. You've stood for Parliament before. You've been selected to stand in a key seat in the past. Do you think it's important that we should look beyond the traditional BAME from the Indian community or the Pakistani community and the African community, i.e. West Africa and Jamaica and the Caribbean, and have someone from Somali origin in Parliament? Or do you think that we are probably as diverse as we're ever going to get?
I don't think we are diverse as we're ever going to get in the British Parliament. We've done, as a Labour Party, obviously yourself and Diane and Bernie and Paul Boateng were the first elected ever people of colour to British Parliament. And it's been a long road to get as much representation from the diverse communities. I think now is time for having communities like the Somali community and other East African communities represented in Parliament. They're a growing community in this country, and the Somali community are the oldest African, if not one of the oldest black communities here. We predate Windrush, and the history of the Somali community as seafarers and how they built this country is one of those hidden histories that people don't know about, and I think it's long overdue. And if the Labour Party doesn't look at representation from the Horn and East African communities that live in Britain, it will be other parties that do that. Because in Tower Hamlets, for example, Lufta did very well courting the Somali community locally, and in fact it was a swing vote from the Somali community that helped to get him across the line. And up and down the country, the East African communities, Somali, Sudanese, Ethiopian, are in constituencies where the swing vote will more or less determine who will become the next government. So I think it's important that there is representation from those communities in Parliament.
Councillor Amina Ali, Deputy Group Leader in the London Borough of Tower Hamlets, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck with the big challenges that lie ahead.
Oh, thank you, Keith, for having me today, and best wishes to you and all your listeners of Leica Radio.
Doom, 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 doom.
मेरे नाल तू विजिल बजा
Keith Vaz on Talking Points. Leica.
For this week, time's up. My thanks to Nikhil Metha, Pamela Rodriguez, and Councillor Amina Ali. Special thanks to my producer, Rupi, and my editor, Adam. To end today's programme, because of the fabulous weather we've been having this week, it's reminded me of Goa. Let's go to Goa. We miss the sun and the beaches, and let's hear Goa Beach, sung by Tony Kaka and Nia Kaka, which has had 504 million views on YouTube. Please stay tuned to Leica Radio for the rest of the day. Sheena will be on after the 10 o'clock news with her Sunday Sensations hits. This has been Talking Points on Leica Radio with Keith Vaz, broadcasting from London. Have a great Sunday.
दिल ये फिसला 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 तेरे गोरे बदन पे फिसला तेरे गुलाबी होंठों को देख मैं तो पिघला 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 तुझको ले जाऊंगा मैं खींच के गोवा वाले बीच पे रानी आंखें मीच के ठंडी ठंडी बियर पियेंगे दोनों फोटो खींच के गोवा वाले बीच पे रानी आंखें मीच के ठंडी ठंडी बियर पियेंगे दोनों फोटो खींच के खींच के खींच के खींच के आंखें मीच के आंखें मीच के आंखें मीच के हाय हाय खींच के खींच के खींच के आंखें मीच के आंखें मीच के आंखें मीच के हाय हाय आय मटक 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 चलती है आय झटक 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 बाल चलती है बड़ा संभलती है जान निकलती है हाथ लगा दूं तो हंसी सी गलती है ये मेरी गलती है पर इतना भी हॉट नहीं होना चाहिए यार तुझको लगाऊंगी मैं खींच के गोवा वाले बीच पे बेबी आंखें मीच के ठंडे ठंडे बियर पियेंगे दोनों फोटो खींच के मेरा गीला गीला देखो मुझे ऐसी नजर से बेबी फीला फीला करना जो भी कर आंखें मीच के गोवा वाले बीच पे रानी आंखें मीच के ठंडी ठंडी बियर पियेंगे दोनों फोटो खींच के गोवा वाले बीच पे रानी आंखें मीच के ठंडी ठंडी बियर फोटो खींच के मेरी कार की सीट पे खाली खाली सीट पे प्यार मोहब्बत करेंगे रानी करेंगे पर बड़ी स्पीड में मेरी कार की सीट पे खाली खाली सीट पे प्यार मोहब्बत करेंगे रानी करेंगे पर बड़ी स्पीड में गोवा वाले बीच पे रानी आंखें मींच के ठंडी ठंडी बियर पियेंगे दोनों फोटो